It's a lovely day for racing here at ASRL Barbagallo as we watch these drivers warm up and get ready for the race. Adam has a best lap time of 1:05.617.
Adam is not giving up and will be looking for every 10th.
Adam has a best lap time of 1:05.617. Malero posted 1:06.336 on his last lap, and will be pushing hard for an even lower time.
There is always more time to be found, but Malero is not guaranteed to find it.
With just 1 minute left before we move to qualification, there is not long left for these drivers to finish their preparations. Kevin Lekmansky has a best lap time of 1:06.689.
The time clock can be a cruel mistress that is all too willing to show you your faults.
Kevin Lekmansky has a best lap time of 1:06.689.
If there is still time on the clock, there is still time to improve.
Simon just posted a 2:05.483 crossing start finish.
Simon is not giving up and will be looking for every 10th.
With just 0 minutes left before we move to qualification, there is not long left for these drivers to finish their preparations. Simon of the Desert posted 1:08.794 on his last lap, and will be pushing hard for an even lower time.
The time clock can be a cruel mistress that is all too willing to show you your faults.
Kevin Lekmansky has a best lap time of 1:06.689. Kevin Lekmansky has a best lap time of 1:06.689.
There is always more time to be found, but Kevin is not guaranteed to find it.
Kevin just posted a 1:07.373 crossing start finish.
Lekmansky is not giving up and will be looking for every 10th.
With just 0 minutes left before we move to qualification, there is not long left for these drivers to finish their preparations. Simon of the Desert posted 1:08.280 on his last lap, and will be pushing hard for an even lower time.
If there is still time on the clock, there is still time to improve.
Ryan Wilson has a best lap time of 1:06.684.
There is always more time to be found, but Wilson is not guaranteed to find it.
Assad Extreming is on his practice out lap. The engines are revving up and the drivers are ready to hit the gas pedal for this qualifying session at ASRL Barbagallo. It's all about strategy in these early moments. Malero is taking his time to prepare for his qualifying run and get everything just right. Malero appears focused and prepared driving through T4, Shell corner. You can feel the tension building. Steady is out on track and getting ready to push for his qualifying time. Steady is looking relatively composed going through T6. Cold corner though. Ryan Wilson is on his out lap.
It's all about finding that balance between staying calm and focused, while also pushing the limits.
Ryan Wilson is keeping his head down through Tate Straight.
There's a spot near here where the teenagers sneak off to make out.
Ryan Wilson crosses the start-finish line at the end of his out lap. Kevin Lekmansky is on his first flying lap.
Let's see if he can put a good marker down.
This is what it's all about. Malero is putting everything he's got into this qualifying session. It's all about precision and speed in qualifying, and Adam is nailing both. Adam is now up 0.26 in T4, Shell corner.
If Adam looks at that delta too much, it may end up being a distraction, and all that time he found may be lost.
It's clear that Kevin Lekmansky is pushing his car to the very edge of traction on this qualifying lap.
Kevin certainly is nailing this one. This is shaping up to be a great performance.
Kevin Lekmansky is expertly commanding that car through Tate Straight.
This is such a great track. I need to make it back here more often.
Kevin Lekmansky has completed that flying lap in 106.711, which is good enough for P4, down 0.498 to the leader. The pressure is on in this qualifying session, but Narwhal is rising to the occasion. Narwhal has just completed that lap in 106.700, which is 0.811 off the best time, putting him in P4. There are just over 10 minutes left in this qualification session. Simon of the Desert has found an extra 0.15. Simon of the Desert is driving through T6. Cold corner though. David Zahn is up 0.15. David Zahn has some work to do, as his best time of 107.214 is only good enough for 7th.
That's not a bad time, but I am sure you will keep working on that 1.325 gap to pole.
Ryan Wilson has improved by 0.29. Ryan Wilson is currently up 0.37 going through Tate Straight. Ryan Wilson will be happy with a time good enough for second in this qualifying session.
It may be difficult for him to find that missing 0.13, but that won't stop him from trying.
Steady is in the green by 0.59. Steady is 0.58 up driving through Tate Straight.
Sketty needs all the focus and resolve he can muster to maintain this pace.
Sketty will be happy with a time good enough for fourth in this qualifying session.
Every fraction of a second counts. He is surely working on that 0.828 gap to pole.
Simon of the Desert is now up 0.46. Simon of the Desert is driving through T5, Barbagallo corner skyline.
This track has many great straights and corners, but this one is especially good.
David Zahn has found an extra 0.15. Sketty has improved by 0.1. Simon of the Desert is up 0.16. Sketty is in the green by 0.16. Sketty will be happy with a time good enough for third in this qualifying session. Kevin Lekmansky appears focused and prepared driving through T4, Shell corner. David Zahn has improved by 0.1. David Zahn has some work to do, as his best time of 107.176 is only good enough for 7th. David Zahn is working his way through T4, Shell corner. Narwhal is now up 0.1. Narwhal is looking relatively composed going through T5, Barbagallo corner skyline. There are just over 5 minutes left in this qualification session. Adam is up 0.1. Adam is in the green by 0.22, making his way through T4, Shell corner. Sketty has found an extra 0.11. That ASRL Shelby Mustang GT350R looks good driving through T4, Shell Corner. Malero will be happy, with a time good enough for 4th in this qualifying session.
It may be difficult for him to find that missing 0.812, but that won't stop him from trying.
Malero is expertly commanding that car through T4, Shell Corner.
Spectators near here can smell the smoke wafting from nearby grills.
Malero is now up 0.11 in Tate straight. Malero will be happy, with a time good enough for 3rd in this qualifying session.
Every fraction of a second counts. He is surely working on that 0.51 gap to pole.
Simon of the Desert is now up 0.6. Simon of the Desert has some work to do, as his best time of 107.017 is only good enough for 7th.
There's at least 1.507 seconds to be found, but Simon may be looking for it in the wrong places.
Simon of the Desert is keeping his head down through T4, Shell Corner.
The Action and Glory drivers have lived here at T4. Shell Corner is truly historic.
Adam looks to be off the pace. Janet, what can he do to improve?
It's easy for a driver to get into a rhythm on the track, but there's no guarantee that rhythm is right. Each corner needs to be constantly re-evaluated to look for a better line.
Adam appears focused and prepared driving through T5, Barbagallo corner skyline. Narwhal is up 0.11. Narwhal is working his way through T4, Shell Corner.
If Narwhal listens closely, the sounds of cheering fans should just barely be audible over the roar of the engine.
What a performance from Simon of the Desert, currently in 7th on the grid. It's a good spot for now, but other drivers are trying their hardest to put in a better time and push him down the order.
I couldn't agree more, Marco. Simon has done a fantastic job to claim 7th. The challenge now is to convert this opportunity into a strong race result.
Impressive display by Narwhal, currently sitting in P5. He's set a competitive time, but the question remains whether he can push even harder to secure a better starting position.
Absolutely, Marco. Narwhal has shown great potential to secure 5th. It's now a matter of channeling that momentum into a strong performance during the race.
It's an impressive showing by Adam in qualifying, setting the bar high and leading the way with an exceptional performance. It's a fantastic position to be in, and he will be looking to convert it into a strong race result.
Spot-on analysis, Marco. Adam is currently in a dominant position, setting the standard for his rivals. His consistent and impressive performance is setting him up for a strong starting position.
A strong showing from Simon of the Desert as he's currently in 7th. With the session drawing to a close, he'll need to dig deep and find that extra burst of speed to improve. Impressive work from Narwhal, who has claimed 5th on the grid. Now, the focus is on maintaining his composure and push for an even better starting position.
I completely agree, Marco. Narwhal has plenty of opportunities starting in 5th. However, it's crucial for him to keep pushing and make up some positions in the...
Narwhal will be happy with a time good enough for 5th in this qualifying session.
It may be difficult for him to find that missing 0.897, but that won't stop him from trying.
A solid qualifying performance by Kevin Lekmansky, positioned in 6th. The question now is whether he can make further progress and challenge the frontrunners.
You're absolutely right, Marco. Lekmansky's current position of 6th reflects his strong qualifying performance. Now, he'll need to strategize to capitalize on this starting position.
Kevin Lekmansky has some work to do, as his best time of 1:06.711 is only good enough for 6th.
That's not a bad time, but I am sure he will keep working on that 1.201 gap to pole.
You've joined us on a breezy day here at ASRL Barbagallo, as we're getting ready to get things underway. Starting from pole position is the best possible outcome for Adam.
It's also a nightmare if he can't hold onto it. Let's see how he will handle the pressure.
Ryan Wilson will be looking to convert this front row start into a win.
He will have to keep his foot on the gas in order to stay at the sharp end of the grid.
In the 3rd position, it's none other than Malero.
It's like he's on the outside looking in, close enough to see the front without actually being there.
Sketty is going to be starting from 4th.
A strong grid position, and he'll be expecting a solid result today.
The 5th position is occupied by Narwhal.
I think we are all looking forward to seeing what Narwhal can do from here.
The 6th position belongs to Kevin Lekmansky.
Kevin will be ready to show what he's made of.
Starting from the 7th position, Simon of the Desert will need to navigate through the field to challenge for the win.
He's going to have to time his moves just right to move up the grid during the race.
As the engines roar to life, David Zahn prepares to take off from the 8th position on the starting grid.
David will have wanted a better start than 8th.
The green flag is out and we're racing. Time for the drivers to put their foot down.
Concentration is crucial as they navigate through the pack and try to establish a strong position. The best drivers know how to find their rhythm quickly.
Having started in P1, Adam will be hoping for a good result in this race. As the drivers get this race underway, let me give a shout out to the admin team at ASRL for making this all possible. Heroes one and all.
What a beautiful day for racing here at ASRL Barbagallo. This is going to be good to watch.
The drivers are jockeying for position. Ryan Wilson will be looking to get off to a good start and consolidate his position.
Let's hope everyone is able to stay focused for the challenge ahead.
It's looking good for Narwhal, who has gained a place after passing Kevin Lekmansky.
Absolutely, Marco. But there's still a long way to go in this race, and Narwhal can't afford to get complacent.
Kevin Lekmansky has the pedal to the metal chasing Narwhal.
I might have said this before, but dog, bone, you know the rest.
The action is heating up here as Malero is in third, defending from Steady, who is only 0.3 seconds away.
Surely he's got enough in the tank to pull away. Gonna be interesting to watch this battle unfold.
Simon of the Desert is looking for a way round Kevin Lekmansky.
If you don't push the boundary...
Hold on a second. It's a tale of two drivers right now, with Simon of the Desert gaining places and Kevin Lekmansky losing them.
Yes, but Simon can't rest on his laurels, but needs to keep pushing to consolidate his position.
Pushing too hard can lead to mistakes, and we're seeing that now. That car is really unsettled from being pushed for every last bit of speed.
This is where every inch counts. Sketty is pushing hard to close the gap on Malero. Absolutely, precision and control are key here. Knowing when to push and when to hold back can be the difference between winning and losing.
It's looking breaking update. Disappointing for Malero, falling down the order to 8th. Fantastic racing on show here today, and it's not just the top drivers who are impressing us. Even the drivers at the back of the pack are putting up a good fight, battling it out for every position.
It's a testament to the level of competition at ASRL. Even the smallest mistake can cost you valuable seconds, or even lead to a crash. But these drivers are up to the challenge, and they're giving it their all. It's clear that ASRL really is the place to be for top quality racing.
This is where the skill and precision of the drivers really comes into play. Ryan Wilson is chasing Steady in P2.
The mental game is just as important here. Wilson must keep his cool while putting pressure on Steady.
Ryan Wilson is trying his best, but can't seem to find the pace to keep up with Steady at the moment.
Wilson really needs to push in T1. Cat corner to gain some ground before Sketty drives off into the sunset.
The track conditions are looking good here today. The drivers will be able to push the cars to the limit, and it's going to make for some exciting racing. Things don't seem to be going Kevin Lekmansky's way in this race, as that's a big gap he'll have to close to even be in with a shout for gaining a place here. These drivers are walking a razor's edge between pushing the limits and making costly errors.
Absolutely, it's all about finding that sweet spot where you're pushing the car to its limits without crossing the line into reckless driving. It's all about finding the perfect opportunity. Wilson needs to stay patient and wait for Sketty to make a mistake.
Kevin Lekmansky is giving it his all, chasing down David Zahn in P6. The gap between Kevin Lekmansky and David Zahn is growing. It's now up to 0.7 seconds.
This is a frustrating situation for Lekmansky, but he can't give up just yet. He'll need to keep pushing and hope for a mistake from Zahn.
Well, it doesn't look like Ryan Wilson is going to be much of a threat to anyone soon, let alone Sketty.
Wilson certainly isn't going to be close enough to mount any kind of challenge soon unless it's down to a mistake from Sketty.
Every move counts now as Narwhal works to reel in Simon of the Desert and overtake for P4. Things are heating up as Kevin Lekmansky tries to close the gap to David Zahn. An impressive showing from Kevin Lekmansky, who has gained positions and left David Zahn in the dust. David Zahn could be looking for a way up the inside of Kevin Lekmansky.
It looks like Zahn has the speed to make a move. I just hope he can do it cleanly.
The race is really heating up. Narwhal is hunting down Simon of the Desert with everything he's got.
I would not be surprised to see him get this pass completed soon.
Good news for Narwhal. The gap to Simon of the Desert has decreased. It's now down to 0.3 seconds.
Exactly what Narwhal needed. He can't afford to lose any more ground to Simon.
Great driving from Narwhal, who has just gained a place and moved up to 4th.
Absolutely. Narwhal is really putting on a clinic out there, and he's making it look easy.
The battle for P6 is heating up as David Zahn tries to catch Kevin Lekmansky in P6. The pressure is on as Simon of the Desert tries to catch up to Narwhal.
It's a fine line between pushing the car to its limits and losing control. Simon is really walking that fine line. The gap between Simon of the Desert and Narwhal is widening. It's now up to 1.0 seconds. This is a tough situation for Simon. He'll need to find a way to pick up some speed and close that gap. As a former racing driver, Janet, how important is the relationship between it? Stop the press. Looks like that's a mistake from Ryan Wilson. This could be costly. It's a real shame. Until this point in the race, he'd been looking at a decent result. This is where the race gets really interesting. Kevin Lekmansky is closing in on Simon of the Desert. Kevin Lekmansky could be on a charge here, Janet. He's just put in a quicker lap than Simon of the Desert. The question now is, can Simon respond to that and pick up the pace? I'm not so sure. Three cars, three different lines. They're jockeying for position, looking for any opportunity to make a move. Kevin Lekmansky is on a mission, chasing Simon of the Desert, who's desperately trying to stay ahead. It looks like Simon of the Desert is pulling away from Kevin Lekmansky. The gap is continuing to grow as they head through T1, Cat Corner. Lekmansky needs to get it together to make a dent in that gap. Three cars in perfect formation, creating a moving train on the circuit. They're using the slipstream to gain an advantage, but that's not always enough.
Simon of the Desert seems to be putting the pressure on Kevin Lekmansky.
If Simon gets too close, he might end up taking the paint off.
They're going side by side, door handle to door handle. This is as close as it gets, folks. I would not be surprised if these drivers swap positions a few times before the order gets ultimately decided.
Spot on, Marco. This constant back and forth battle is keeping everyone on the edge of their seats. One small mistake could have severe consequences for any of these drivers.
It's not looking good for David Zahn, who is still behind Simon of the Desert, and the gap is increasing. Oh, this is getting intense. Simon of the Desert needs to keep Kevin Lekmansky in his sights. It's not going to plan for Simon of the Desert, who is trailing behind Kevin Lekmansky, and the gap is widening. He may not have an answer for this right now. In your experience, Janet, what was the most important aspect of managing tire degradation during a race?
The most important aspect, Marco, was maintaining a good balance between pushing hard and conserving tires. Finding the sweet spot between aggression and tire preservation was key to optimizing race pace and strategy.
Oh, the pressure is intense. These three drivers are displaying incredible skill and determination. It's like a high-speed chess match out there.
Couldn't agree more, Marco. This wheel-to-wheel racing is what fans live for. The determination and tenacity shown by these drivers to gain even the smallest advantage is simply awe-inspiring.
It's certainly not going to plan for David Zahn right now, who is struggling to keep up with Simon of the Desert.
He needs to pick up the pace for sure, but that's not always a real possibility.
Even though David Zahn is a fair way behind Simon of the Desert, he can't afford to let his guard down. Simon of the Desert is still vulnerable to mistakes.
Absolutely right, Marco. And Zahn knows he's got to keep driving at his best and take advantage of any opportunity that comes his way.
He's pulling away. Simon of the Desert is increasing the gap to David Zahn.
Agreed, Marco. Superb driving there. If they keep this up, this race should be a real thrill ride.
David Zahn is trying his best to catch Simon of the Desert. David Zahn is trying his best, but can't seem to find the pace to keep up with Simon of the Desert at the moment. Simon of the Desert is on a mission, chasing Kevin Lekmansky, who's currently got a comfortable lead. The gap between Simon of the Desert and Kevin Lekmansky is growing. It's now up to 0.7 seconds. We've certainly seen some of the drivers get it wrong today.
Anyone lost can just follow the trail of skid marks. I hear it's the latest form of GPS navigation.
Let's hope the other drivers don't follow suit. We might end up with a bumper car race instead of a high-speed competition.
At least we'd have something to fall back on if we ever get bored of regular racing. Bumper cars might be the next big thing.
David Zahn is running 6th, and trying to keep up with Simon of the Desert.
I would not be surprised to see him challenge for the position.
David Zahn appears to be losing ground on Simon of the Desert. He'll need to pick up the pace a bit heading into T2 and 3. Deontay Esses to get a good exit and gain some ground. This is a thrilling battle as Simon of the Desert edges closer to Kevin Lekmansky in their fight for P4.
Sometimes you have to take risks to win, but pushing the car too hard can be a costly mistake. Simon needs to be careful not to overdo it.
The gap between Simon of the Desert and Kevin Lekmansky is widening. It's now up to 1.1 seconds.
It's not over yet, but Simon needs to get a move on if they want to catch up to Lekmansky.
During your racing career, Janet, did you have any specific techniques to regain concentration if you felt it slipping?
Yes, Marco, I had a few techniques. One was to take a couple of deep breaths and briefly reset my focus. Another was to use a specific keyword or phrase as a mental trigger to refocus my mind on the task at hand.
It doesn't seem like things are going to plan for David Zahn as there is a big gap ahead.
Every race adds to a driver's experience, both good and bad. It just highlights that Zahn is going to have to get more serious with practice to not get outclassed on the circuit.
David Zahn needs to find some speed, or maybe get more consistent. Janet, he's just put in a slower lap than Simon of the Desert.
It will be interesting to see if Simon can keep outpacing David.
Hold that thought. A tough moment for Kevin Lekmansky, who has just lost a place, now in 5th. As a former driver, Janet, how did you manage the physical demands of racing?
It's all about preparation, Marco. Drivers undergo rigorous fitness training to build their strength, stamina, and flexibility. A proper diet and hydration plan is also essential to ensure peak performance on race day.
Kevin Lekmansky is staying focused while chasing Simon of the Desert in P4. It seems like Kevin Lekmansky has got the bit between his teeth, improving on Simon of the Desert's lap time there.
We will have to see if Simon has got any answers for that.
This race is getting even more intense. The drivers are pushing each other to the limit.
It's like they're playing a game of chicken, but with cars. And the winner gets to take home the checkered flag and bragging rights.
That's one way to put it. These drivers have to be in top physical and mental shape to compete at this level.
It's like they're training for the Olympics. And like you said, the mental fortitude required to stay focused and alert for the entire race is wild.
I think I need a nap just watching them. Adam is placed first at the moment.
Definitely Marco, but Adam can't afford to get complacent. This race is going to require focus and intensity.
Some great driving from Adam, who has increased his lead over Sketty and is starting to put some distance with braking update. Now I may be wrong here, but I'm not sure that's the racing line.
Did the wind contribute to that? It's blowing at 7 kph out there right now.
Kevin Lekmansky is giving it his all chasing down Simon of the Desert in P4. It's game on now. Kevin Lekmansky has closed the gap to Simon of the Desert. It's now down to 0.9 seconds.
He'll be looking for a mistake to pounce on.
The pursuit is on. Kevin Lekmansky is working on that gap to Simon of the Desert, determined to claim P4. It's all about consistency for Shelby, who is currently second. Impressive stuff from Shelby, who has managed to pull away from Narwhal, leaving him in choking in his exhaust fumes.
That's exactly what Shelby needed to do.
So, Janet, considering the high speeds and split-second decision-making involved in racing, what's the impact of even a minor lapse in concentration?
A minor lapse in concentration can have significant consequences, Marco. It could lead to an off-track excursion, a loss of position, or even a collision. That's why it's crucial for drivers to stay focused and alert throughout the race.
The pressure is on as Malero works on catching up to David Zahn.
Don't forget the role of aerodynamics. Malero should use slipstreaming to his advantage and close the gap to Zahn.
It's not looking good for Malero, who is still behind David Zahn, and the gap is increasing. The pursuit is on. Kevin Lekmansky is closing the gap on Simon of the Desert, determined to claim P4. The crowd is on its feet as Malero chases down David Zahn through T7, Novus Corner.
Should things go south between Malero and Zahn, we might witness a high-speed game of bumper cars, but trust me, it's way less fun with real race cars.
Kevin Lekmansky is pushing really hard, but as we know, pushing too hard can lead to other mistakes, like locking up the brakes or missing a shift. It's a close race between Malero and David Zahn in 6th.
Malero is so close to David that if this were a dance floor, they'd be doing the tango.
Kevin Lekmansky is running 5th, and trying to catch Simon of the Desert.
With just 0.3 seconds between them, Lekmansky will need to close the gap to have hopes of a pass.
It's like Adam has saved all his energy for this final stretch.
It takes a special kind of driver to perform under pressure like this. Adam has certainly risen to the occasion.
The leader has just finished the race. A fantastic result for Adam. What a fantastic race from Shelby, who brings it home in 2nd place.
Intense race, but Shelby held his nerve and earned a great 2nd place.
What a race from Narwhal. He kept his cool and secured a well-earned 3rd place on the podium. Simon of the Desert and Kevin Lekmansky claimed 4th and 5th. Seventh sees Malero. David Zahn brings home 6th. There's a little bit of wind in the air today here at ASRL Barbagallo, as we're getting ready to get things underway.
The calm before the storm. I don't know about you, Marco, but I'm expecting some hard-fought on-track battles today.
Malero will have the best seat in the house starting from pole position.
He can't afford to get complacent. He will have a target on his back now.
Starting on the front row is a great opportunity for David Zahn to challenge for the lead.
He can't let that advantage go to waste. He will need to stay focused and keep his eyes on the prize.
Kevin Legmansky is holding down the Ford in third place.
Another good start for the American driver.
Simon of the Desert will look to make a splash from the fourth position on the starting grid.
Big things expected for Simon today.
We're seeing Narwhal in the fifth spot.
It's not always easy to get the ASRL Shelby Mustang GT350R this high up the starting grid.
It's Sketty, sitting comfortably in sixth.
Sketty will be expecting to bring home solid points.
Adam is lining up seventh.
Adam would have liked to be higher up, but that's not going to stop him fighting his way through.
Ryan Wilson will be looking to gain ground quickly starting from eighth on the grid. The lights are off. It's pedal to the metal time.
These opening moments can make or break a driver's race. Strategy and skill are key to navigating this intense start.
I think passing is going to be difficult today here at ASRL Barbagallo, so it's going to be interesting to see how these drivers get on. Settling into a rhythm is going to be crucial here.
There are a few drivers with a point to prove, and a few with some grudges to bear. Let's hope they can keep it clean.
Adam will be studying the nearby drivers and looking for anything that could give them an advantage. It's like Sketty saved something up for the race start as he's soaring up the leaderboard.
That's really gonna put the cat among the pigeons. Now Sketty just needs to keep it together and keep out of trouble.
Impressive driving from Sketty, who has managed to extend his lead over Simon of the Desert. It looks like Simon of the Desert will have to regroup and try to make up that lost ground. These drivers are walking a razor's edge between pushing the limits and making costly errors.
Absolutely, it's all about finding that sweet spot where you're pushing the car to its limits without crossing the line into reckless driving. Simon is really pushing the limits. He's riding the curves and hustling the ASRL Shelby Mustang GT350R like a boss.
Pushing too hard can lead to mistakes, and we're seeing that now. That car is really unsettled from being pushed for every last bit of speed.
You can see that car bouncing around as it rides the curves. It's a risky move that could end in disaster.
Oh, this is getting intense. Narwhal is just a few car lengths behind Simon of the Desert. Things are heating up as Simon of the Desert tries to close the gap to Sketty. It's not going to plan for Simon of the Desert, who is trailing behind Sketty and the gap is widening. He may not have an answer for this right now. This is where the skill and precision of the drivers really comes into play. Adam is chasing David Zahn in P6.
The racing is getting tight between Adam and Zahn as they battle for P6. No doubt, both drivers know that one mistake could cost them the position. It's a test of nerves as much as skill.
The battle for P4 is heating up as Narwhal tries to catch Simon of the Desert in P4.
The gap between them is just over 0.5 seconds, which can feel like miles if you're trailing and not catching up.
Adam is giving it his all chasing down David Zahn in P6.
Adam is looking to close the 0.5 second gap and make a pass.
Stop the press. That won't be ideal for Malero.
Malero is not going to be happy about that.
This is where the race gets really interesting. Adam is closing in on David Zahn. It looks like Adam is making a move. The gap to David Zahn is now down to 0.2 seconds.
This is where the race gets really exciting. Both drivers will be pushing to the limit to gain the advantage.
The gap between Kevin Lekmansky and Sketty is pretty substantial right now. It's probably going to take a mistake from Kevin to even allow Sketty to get a look in.
It's not over until the checkered flag drops, and it's important to maintain concentration until you've made it to the finish line.
Looks like Adam is really hitting those curves aggressively, which can unsettle the car and cause handling issues.
Indeed, taking too much curve can upset the car's balance, leading to oversteer or understeer. This is not going to be an easy pass to make.
It's certainly not going to plan for Adam right now, who is struggling to keep up with David Zahn. What do you think, Janet? Are there any specific factors that could lead to a driver losing concentration during a race?
There are several factors, Marco. Fatigue, stress, changing track conditions, or even issues within the team can all contribute to a lapse in concentration. It's essential for drivers to stay mentally resilient and adapt to these challenges.
Look at that. Kevin Lekmansky is hot on the tail of Malero. Kevin Lekmansky has just put in a faster lap than Malero, so that's going to give him something to worry about. The race is really heating up. Adam is hunting down David Zahn with everything he's got. It seems like Adam is pushing hard, currently on track to record his best lap so far in this race.
Adam appears to be pushing. Hopefully he can keep it together.
Every move counts now as Sketty works to reel in Kevin Lekmansky and overtake for P2.
It's a game of strategy now as Sketty hunts down Kevin.
In racing anything can, and usually does, happen, especially in such an epic showdown.
This is what separates the good from the great. The ability to stay focused and perform under pressure.
The gap between David Zahn and Adam is growing. It's now up to 0.7 seconds. Steady is running third, and trying to catch Kevin Lekmansky. Steady appears to be losing ground on Kevin Lekmansky. He'll need to pick up the pace a bit heading into T7. Novice corner to get a good exit and gain some ground. David Zahn is on a mission, chasing Adam, who's currently got a comfortable lead. David Zahn is trying his best, but can't seem to find the pace to keep up with Adam at the moment. Steady is looking for a way to close that gap to Kevin Lekmansky.
We'll have to wait to see if Steady can get into drafting range.
It's not looking good for Steady, who is still behind Kevin Lekmansky, and the gap is increasing.
This is not ideal for Steady, but there's still time to turn this around. He'll need to focus and not let that gap get any bigger.
Simon of the Desert has a mountain to climb at the moment to close that gap with David Zahn. I expect his only hope at this point is that David makes an error. It looks like we might get a battle between Simon of the Desert and David Zahn. It's a brilliant day for racing here at ASRL Barbagallo. I'm really enjoying this.
This race is truly epic. What a treat to be sat here witnessing this spectacle.
Oh, this is getting intense. Steady needs to keep Kevin Lekmansky in his sights.
It's all about choosing the right moments to push and when to conserve energy, waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike.
Simon of the Desert is pushing really hard, but as we know, pushing too hard can lead to other mistakes, like locking up the brakes or missing a shift. Simon of the Desert could be on a charge here, Janet. He's just put in a quicker lap than David Zahn.
As long as Simon can maintain that consistency and pace, it will be interesting to see.
Huge shout out to the admins at ASRL for making this all possible. Without their hard work and dedication, we wouldn't be able to witness this incredible event.
That's right, Marco, and the excitement is electric. I can feel it in my circuits. I mean, this is the kind of race that people will be talking about in the bar. We're witnessing history in the making.
Narwhal is on a mission, chasing Simon of the Desert, who's desperately trying to stay ahead. The pressure is on as Simon of the Desert tries to catch up to David Zahn.
Simon needs to focus to have a chance at getting past Dave.
Things are heating up as Steady tries to close the gap to Kevin Lekmansky.
The gap is 0.3 seconds now. Steady is going to have to work a bit harder to close that gap with Lekmansky.
Looks like we might have a great battle starting here between Simon of the Desert in 6th and Narwhal. It's been tense with a gap of only 0.3 seconds. The action is non-stop as Narwhal shadows Simon of the Desert through every twist and turn, determined to claim 6th. These drivers are walking a razor's edge between pushing the limits and making costly errors.
Absolutely, it's all about finding that sweet spot where you're pushing the car to its limits without crossing the line into reckless driving.
The gap between Sketty and Kevin Leck breaking update. Big gains for Sketty as they move up the field, leaving Kevin Leck-Mansky behind.
Yes, but Sketty needs to keep pushing hard. This race is far from over, and anything can happen. Sketty needs to stay focused and drive with skill and determination.
Oh dear, Sketty has dropped down to 3rd.
Sucks to be the Marco.
Well, it doesn't look like Narwhal is going to be much of a threat to anyone soon, let alone David Zahn.
Anything can happen yet, and it usually does. I've certainly seen drivers come back from worse.
Narwhal is pushing hard and has reduced the gap to David Zahn to 0.8 seconds.
This is where the pressure really starts to build. A driver that stays calm and focused is more likely to come out on top.
Kevin Leck-Mansky is pushing to maintain the lead, while Sketty is working to close in and challenge for the position.
That's right, Sketty in 3rd knows to push it to the limit to catch up. But Leck-Mansky is no slouch, and he's going to be pushing just as hard.
The battle for P5 is heating up as Narwhal tries to catch David Zahn in P5. It looks like David Zahn is pulling away from Narwhal. The gap is continuing to grow as they head through T7, Novus Corner. You know, Janet, I've always wondered, how do racing drivers stay so cool and collected under such immense pressure?
Well, Marco, it comes down to mental strength and training. Drivers often work with sports psychologists and practice techniques like meditation and visualization to help them stay calm and focused during high-pressure situations.
That's not a small gap, but Sketty has what it takes to challenge for the position.
Indeed, the anticipation is high as Sketty tries to reel in Leck-Mansky.
This is a thrilling battle as Simon of the Desert edges closer to Narwhal in their fight for P6.
We'll have to wait to see if Simon can use the draft to his advantage, or if the lack of downforce will hinder his progress.
The gap between Simon of the Desert and Narwhal is widening. It's now up to 0.4 seconds. It doesn't seem like things are going to plan for Sketty as there is a big gap ahead.
Every race adds to a driver's experience, both good and bad. It just highlights that Sketty is going to have to get more serious with practice to not get outclassed on the circuit.
It's certainly not going to plan for Sketty right now, who is struggling to keep up with Kevin Leck-Mansky.
This is where the mental toughness of Sketty comes into play. He'll need to stay focused and keep pushing, even when things aren't going his way.
Looks like we've had a few incidents out there.
Someone forgot to take their driving lessons. They're making more U-turns than a confused tourist.
Hilarious. I think they might need to call their GPS for directions. Maybe it can help them navigate the track. The gap between Narwhal and Simon of the Desert is pretty substantial right now. It's probably going to take a mistake from Narwhal to even allow Simon to get a look in. Things are going according to plan for David Zahn, who is currently fifth. Excellent work from David Zahn, who has managed to increase his lead over Narwhal. Simon of the Desert is giving it his all, chasing down Narwhal in P6.
Simon is really hustling the ASRL Shelby Mustang GT350R. He's riding the curbs and pushing the car to its limits.
The gap between Simon of the Desert and Narwhal is growing. It's now up to 0.7 seconds. The delta between Adam in fourth and Sketty remains over a second, but Adam is not letting up. It seems like Adam has got the bid between his teeth, improving on Sketty's lap time there.
The question now is, can Sketty respond to that and pick up the pace? I'm not so sure.
In your experience, Janet, what was the most challenging aspect of maintaining concentration during a race?
The most challenging aspect, Marco, was managing the various inputs and distractions during the race, from radio communication with the team to monitoring car performance and race strategy. It's a delicate balancing act that requires immense mental discipline.
Oh, this is getting intense. Simon of the Desert is just a few car lengths behind Narwhal.
It's a game of strategy now as Simon hunts down Narwhal. Yes, it's all about choosing the right moments to push and when to conserve energy, waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike.
Pushing too hard can lead to mistakes, and we're seeing that now. That car is really unsettled from being pushed for every last bit of speed. It's a thrilling pursuit as Simon of the Desert is right behind Narwhal, keeping the pressure on for sixth place. This is where the skill and precision of the drivers really comes into play. Adam is chasing Sketty in P3.
The gap between them is just over 0.5 seconds. Can Adam close that gap and get back in range? I can't see it happening at this point.
Looks like Simon of the Desert is really hitting those curves aggressively, which can unsettle the car and cause handling issues.
Indeed, taking too much curb can upset the car's balance, leading to oversteer or understeer. It's all about finding the perfect opportunity.
Braking development. I don't think that's the fastest way around ASRL Barbagallo.
ASRL Barbagallo is always a test for these drivers, and sometimes that's the way it goes.
A solid performance from Simon of the Desert, who is holding down sixth. A commanding performance from Simon of the Desert, who has increased his lead over Kevin Lekmansky, putting him firmly in his rear-view mirrors. Things don't seem to be going Simon of the Desert's way in this race, as that's a big gap he'll have to close to even be in with a shout for gaining a place here. The gap is just over a second, and I'm sure Adam is going to do everything possible to try and close the distance. He's not giving up without a fight.
It's a nail-biting race for sure, with both drivers showing incredible skill and determination.
Adam is trying his best, but can't seem to find the pace to keep up with Malero at the moment.
This is a frustrating situation for Adam, but he can't give up just yet. He'll need to keep pushing and hope for a mistake from Malero.
Simon of the Desert is running 6th, and trying to keep up with Narwhal. Good news for Simon of the Desert, the gap to Narwhal has decreased. It's now down to 0.6 seconds. This is where the true champions shine, and Malero is certainly showing his class in the final sector.
That's an impressive burst of speed. It's all but said and done now.
What a win! This is a historic moment for Malero, who put on a masterclass in driving today. What a display of skill and precision. A nail-biting finish, but Adam claims 2nd place.
Strong work securing 2nd place. Well done.
What a race from Steady, showing his skill and determination for a great 3rd place finish. David Zahn, Narwhal, Simon of the Desert, and Kevin Lek Mansky in 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th.